All right. So this is the For Sale by Owner boot camp. What I encourage agents to do is take this looking at, especially in a low inventory market, what we tend to see is in a low inventory market, sellers start putting their houses on the market for sale by owner. Sometimes that's because there's rising prices. Sometimes that's because it looks easy, right? My neighbor just put their house up. It went in 3 days. So I should be able to sell mine in 3 days. So we start to see this a lot. And also when you've got a low inventory marketplace and you're working with buyers, it's important to have that skill set to be able to work with for sale by owners, because that may be your only option for your buyer. So been able to use this effectively. I haven't done any FSBOs this year, but in 2017 I did 4 FSBOs.
You closed on 4.
Closed on 4.
Now let me ask you, when you have a FSBO, do they show up in MRS?
So let me see. 1 did, the other 3 did not. So one was, actually 2 of them were completely off market. So it was basically my clients heard of these 2 properties. Well, one, we did a mailer into a neighborhood. The seller raised their hand, completely off market. Another, my client.
That's lucky.
It's not lucky. I mean, I knew my clients wanted to be in that neighborhood. Sent a mailer in there, and they wanted to sell. So that wasn't as much luck. The other one was more luck, where my client knew of a estate house in a neighborhood she really wanted to be in, and we reached out to that one. And then there were other 2 where I showed 2 for sale by owner properties. That one was just using forsalebyowner.com. The other was using Zillow and MLS. And I was able to show those 2 properties to my buyers, and they wound up calling me back in to list the properties.
Cool.
So, but it takes a little bit of a different skill set, and you can't pounce all over them. And that's what we're going to kind of go through. This will walk you through the one where you necessarily don't have a buyer for their property. But I encourage you, if you ever do have a property that you have a buyer for and there's a FSBO in that marketplace, show it. It's amazing what the results could be. So, with that, we'll hop to page 3. So page 3, this is what we call the test of confidence. What we see is a lot of agents don't work with for sale by owners because they assume it's a, realtor stay away sign, right? That they don't want to work with a realtor, they don't want to pay a realtor. It's kind of a adversarial relationship, and that's not really the case. And the way you want to look at it is, out of the for sale by owners, if you look at kind of any pocket of business that's out there, here's a group of people that have a 100% desire to sell their property, right? They have a sign in the yard. They have a price in mind that if you brought them a contract at that price and met their terms, they would sell their house. So they all want to sell. And NAR statistics say that 80% of for sale by owners wind up working with a realtor. So there's a good likelihood that you could be the agent who they work with. Let's move on to page 4. So page 4, this is kind of our course overview. If you've done these momentum courses before, you'll see this. Basically, this is part of our business plan, where we're looking for new business and potentially referral business. We can get buyers and sellers through this program, because sometimes those sellers who are for sale by owning are going to have to buy something. And we put them into our client care system, which means we get yard signs up, home ads, internet listings just listed. So there's a whole marketing aspect too if you can convert a for sale by owner into a client. Skip over page 5. Page 6. And this is where most agents stop with for sale by owners. They see a for sale by owner sign. It's got a number on it. It's a call about a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath townhome in Lake Hollowell. And then they stop right there because they just don't know what to do beyond dialing that phone. What do I say next? So what we do is we give you phone dialogue, viewing dialogue, closing dialogue, follow-up dialogue. And then we also, you have your have list. What you need to have things to be able to accomplish this. So your call list, inventory sheets, clipboard, a tape measure is a really good idea. Seller disclosure, and then the FSBO follow-up pack is something that we'll give you at the end of the class. Basically, it's 3 follow-up packages that you're going to follow, and you basically over 3 weeks give them these follow-ups, thank you notes, tracking sheet, and then a map. Hey, that's okay. We just started.
Sorry. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey.
Anyone interested in going to Joe's class for momentum sales system for FSBO? He is in the large conference.
My house sold.
Huh?
He's under contract. My house.
Oh, fabulous!
Thanks. Under 3 weeks. And I got pretty close to listing price, so I was pretty happy. It was
Good
an
for you.
all cash offer. No appraisal.
Wow.
It was another realtor.
Good for you. That was a nice house.
That's awesome.
I lucked out, I think.
Ah, you did.
Yeah.
Right on.
I was trying to sell it. It was like number 2 on their list, but I tried.
All right, so we're on page 6.
Oh. Page 6. Okay.
So just you didn't miss much. So just started talking about for sale by owners, why agents stay away from them, and why you should definitely get
Go
closer to
after
them.
'em.
Yep. And so this is a really good page to kind of start off with is why visit a for sale by owner. Again, we talked about this earlier. 100% of for sale by owners have an immediate desire to sell their house, right? They've got a sign in the yard. These are people who want to sell. They're a good pool to go after.
Okay.
So when I talk to a lot of folks about for sale by owners, they think of it as kind of a one-dimensional opportunity, right? It is to get that listing, right? But actually there is a lot of other aspects to it. There's 6 different aspects. So we look at this as, number one, that you have the opportunity to sell the FSBO's home. Basically, you can work with them and bring a buyer in and sell that FSBO as it is, just as it was like any other listing. You can list that property and represent the FSBO, which most of us consider, that's kind of the number one and only thing people usually consider. You can also work with them as a buyer, right? So the FSBO may need to go buy something. You can get a referral from the FSBO, right? Do a great job for the FSBO. Maybe they don't need your services, but they have a cousin who's having a hard time selling their house in another marketplace and needs a realtor. You can also give the FSBO referral. Let's say they're going to North Carolina. You can put them in touch with a great agent down there to buy. And then there's some cases where the FSBO has the deal already done, but they need a little bit of help, right? They have a buyer, but they don't, they were going to go hire an attorney to go manage the process. You can actually step in and kind of help them through the contract paperwork. So we look at this as there's 6 opportunities for commission. So why would someone go for FSBO? And again, most FSBOs go because they want to save money, right?
Right.
So in our little joke is if everyone were just into saving money, we'd all be driving Yugos. Right. So, and the truth is, in perception of value, FSBOs don't think the realtor is worth the commission, right? And you'll hear this from time to time. People are like, I was going to hire a realtor, but I really needed the money. And you're almost like, well, everyone needs the money. It's not hiring a realtor actually puts you at a disadvantage. But they don't see it that way because they don't see the value in realtors. And I can't necessarily disagree with them in a lot of cases. I think a lot of realtors out there are terrible. They may have had a bad relationship with their last realtor. They paid them, 6% and they got nothing out of it, right? So the next realtor who comes along saying the same things, talking the same game, charging the same amount, they're like, no, I'm not going through that again. It wasn't worth it. So you've got to show how you are different than the rest of the realtor population. So again, this is getting into, it's up to you. And sometimes this is going to happen over time, right? It's one of those things that, you never trust someone who comes up and says, trust me, right? It's usually trust is built over time. So with for sale by owners, this method helps you establish that trust over a time period. So moving into relationship with FSBOs is all about having them self-discover what a working relationship with you would be like. The number one goal is to differentiate yourself from the competition. This means you must look, sound, and behave differently. So, how do you find FSBOs? Actually, let me back up one quick second. with a FSBO, and I'll tell you the secret sauce to a FSBO is if you have a buyer, and I was telling Adam this before, if you have a buyer in a price range and there's a FSBO in that price range or in location, show that FSBO. That is the best way to convert a FSBO. What I found is, from my experience, the 2 FSBOs I was able to convert, they were shocked that I actually had a buyer to show their property. They said that they'd gotten many calls from realtors, but none of them actually showed the property with a real live buyer. All of them were calling to get the listing, right? And they had gotten plenty of those calls, but no one was actually showing the property. So if you do have a buyer to show, it gives you a great opportunity to get in a relationship with them. So finding FSBOs, obviously the simple way is driving around. Sometimes they're going to be online, sometimes they're not. So if you've got a marketplace, a farm area or marketplace that you specialize in, any FSBO signs that come up in that marketplace, you want to know about. And this gives you a drive-by plan. So it's defining your home base. And what they say is start small and then gradually build it out as you expand your areas. Again, a lot of this is just being consistent. If you're really going to get good at this, you want to know any FSBOs that come up in your marketplace. Number 2, other sources. Sometimes the newspapers. You'll see for sale by owner ads in the newspapers. The Red X. This is also, the Red X does expired and withdrawn listings. They also have a FSBO inventory, so you can buy lists. Craigslist, you'll see a lot of for sale by owners on Craigslist. D, team members, if tier 2 or above. So team members are basically, these are people on your team that you're going to ask them to look within their spheres of influence, within their businesses for sale by owners. E, trash men, right? And trash women. These are folks who are driving around neighborhoods on a regular and consistent basis, right? And having them be your eyes and ears within different neighborhoods to see, hey, look, if you see a for sale by owner sign, please let me know.
Really, literally, you go up to the trash man and say, hey, I'll give you $50 if you tell me anytime something comes up.
I didn't say you had to give them $50, but yes, I mean, it's developing a relationship with them. I look at this also, like your UPS guy, and FedEx guy. My house, they come like every day, it seems like.
Mine too.
And it's usually, and I typically have the same 2 or 3 folks who wind up delivering. So talking to them, hey, if you see a for sale by owner sign, this is what I do for a living. However you want to work out with them, compensate them for their time. Landscapers, they're driving around. They do routes sometimes too. So if you think about it, kind of any service provider who does routes in geographic areas, those are good people just to tap into. Having a 5-minute conversation with your trash guy about it could lead to a FSBO, may not, but it's a good investment in your 5 minutes.
Okay.
Other things, Zillow has Make Me Move and for sale by owners on Zillow. There's also a service called forsalebyowner.com. So I'll go real quick into kind of, and I'll show you where this happens. So I had a client last year looking in a marketplace, couldn't find a lot of inventory. They say, hey, look, I was just on redfin.com, and this Long and Foster agent is the one listed on Redfin for this property. I look it up online. I don't see it anywhere in MRIS. I'm like, that's weird, and I know the Long and Foster agent, so I call him up. I'm like, hey, what's up with your listing at blah, blah, blah? And he's like, I have no clue what you're talking about. So, and I look on the picture that they've got on Redfin, and it says forsalebyowner.com, like watermarked on the picture. I'm like, that's weird. It's like, why, number one, why would a Long and Foster agent be on a Redfin site? Number two, I talked to the Long and Foster agent, and he has no clue what I'm talking about. So what happens in Redfin is properties that fall outside their business model, like for sale by owners, they have partner agents. This agent turns out to be a partner agent. He didn't know that they threw these leads into his profile, or these properties into his profile.
Are they allowed to do that?
Yeah. So, but what happened was he had no clue about it, and because what was happening is Redfin was pulling from different portals to put stuff on their website, so they pulled from forsalebyowner.com. So long story short, you can go directly to forsalebyowner.com to find properties that may not be listed in MLS or in your typical.
Oh.
It's a really good idea. I'm having a hard time finding for one client something under 200,000 and only, and she won't budge. She won't go over 200, and it's really hard. One comes up every 2 months, listing. So this might be a good opportunity to find another listing that's.
Is it a condo?
She wants she needs an address to send her kids to school in the Brook Grove community. One of her kids has special needs and was assigned to Brook Grove, and she wants to keep the kid in Brook Grove, the rest of the kids, elementary. So she's looking for an address.
And what I recommend agents doing, and this is how I found one for sale by owner, is my clients wanted to be in a very specific neighborhood. They wanted to be in Delabrook Forest. Mm-hmm. So I sent a mailing into Delabrook Forest and said, Sandy and Dan are looking for a property in your neighborhood exclusively. If you have ever had any thoughts of selling, please contact me. Seller wound up.
Anybody?
Yeah, seller wound up raising his hand and giving me a call. I did this in the preserve at Fair Hill, just up, and I got 2 phone calls. So I couldn't work out those 2, but I did work out the one in Delabrook. So if you know of a specific, if you have a type, if it's someone's like Silver Spring between 350 and 500, it's gonna be hard to mail. But if they're looking, if there's only a group of, in our case it was like 45 homes to target market, it was very easy to target market that.
And affordable.
What's that?
And affordable.
Yeah. Yep. So that's another way to go after, if you have a buyer, is to go after FSBOs by having a marketplace and being very blunt about these are the folks I'm looking for. So there's some credibility there. You're not just like, hey, the market's hot, thought about listing, right? The more specific, and that's the reason why I got my clients permission to use their names. So I want to be very specific that there was credibility behind, hey, when I come to your house at 3 o'clock on Thursday, it's going to be with the people I said I was bringing, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't just some scam or,
Right.
And I find that the more specific you can be, the better.
Right.
All right, so those are ways to kind of find the FSBOs. Have you guys found any other ways finding FSBOs?
This is all new to me, so no.
Okay. So
Sometimes just talking to neighbors.
Yep.
About who's going to sell next.
Yep, absolutely.
Especially in a Target. I'm struggling to find places right now.
Yep. So structure and flow. The way we teach this FSBO class is using the 5-step follow-up system. So step 1 is a physical visit. It's basically a walkthrough of the property. And what happens is you wind up getting information from the seller, and then it gives you an opportunity to follow up. Step 2 is that first follow-up, and then at the end of that appointment, if you don't physically meet with them, you have a leave behind. Then there's a follow-up, step 3. Our third follow-up is step 4, and then the 5th follow-up is step 5. But it gives you a kind of a process. What happens in most cases is people call the FSBO, they have a conversation, maybe it doesn't go so great, and they stop right there. Or maybe they make one more attempt, and then they stop right there. The way we look at this is what you're trying to do is, these are folks who potentially may not trust the realtor relationship, right? So one phone call isn't magically going to make it happen, right? And a second phone call may not magically happen. It's going to be a kind of a drip of a relationship. And what you'll see in this is you're not coming with your listing agent hat on as to...
If someone was trying to reach Betty, she is on part 1.
You're not coming with your listing agent hat trying to convince them that they're making the worst decision of their lives trying to do this for sale by owner. You're actually coming with your buyer's agent cap on saying, hey, look, I need to know the inventory, and here's some helpful tools to help you sell your house if I can't bring you the buyer. So what you're trying to do is almost diffuse you're just here to take my money for commission, right? No, I'm here to help you sell your property. The more I know about your property, the more I can help my buyers. Mm-hmm. So we'll get into, I'll kind of break down exactly how that works. So midway through the page, every time you get face-to-face with a FSBO, you give them an item of value. It's something to help them in their attempts to sell the homes themselves.
So what did you normally give them?
So I'll give you each of those. Yep,
Okay.
each of those items. So again, important to follow up. 50% of your competition quit after week 1, 75 after 2, 90 after 3, and almost 100% are going to quit after week 4. That's why we go that extra step.
Okay.
All right, so let's hop into this. Step 1, the initial test. So you will not convert 100% of the leads that you do not generate. So this is where you kind of got to get comfortable or get out of your comfort zone to actually start the process. So approaching the front door prepared with appropriate tools. So in this initial test, your first appointment has to be a face-to-face. If it's not a face-to-face, it's never going to work. So knock on the door. Right, my name is Joe Buffany with Remax Realty Center. I noticed your home's for sale. Would you mind if I come in, viewed the home, and took some room measurements so I can add it to my for sale by owner inventory? So this is underlined and highlighted because what we try to do is create these terms within the program that are different than what other realtors are talking about, right? Because what's this for sale by owner inventory? Right, and that's what the next question is. Typically, that'll come up. So I have a process that I use with all my buyers that we uncover the criteria for their perfect home. I then take that criteria and match it to the homes both in MLS and in my for sale by owner inventory to make sure the buyers who work with me get the home they want and more importantly want the home they get. So what do you say? Would you like preferred exposure to a focus group of buyers, right? So you're actually trying to learn the inventory. Even if you don't have it, this is the case where you don't have the buyer. But you want to know about it so that if you do have a buyer that comes along, you know what the inventory is. So next logical question could be, well, do you have a buyer right now? Well, I'm currently working with buyers and receive calls on a daily basis. However, I need to view the house and take some room measurements so I can match your home to the criteria of each of my buyers. So the process is what we're doing is taking room measurements, and it sounds like a little kind of a funny quirk. What it does is just makes the appointment that much longer, right? If you're actually measuring out the rooms and getting dimensions. For me, what I always tell them, I do true place, so I always do floor plans. So my buyers expect to see floor plans. It's a way to me a little bit to pitch the listing side of my business, but I explain it to them that my buyers expect it, so I always go out and get that for them. Well, we don't want to work with a realtor, right? So if they say that, say, I appreciate that and I understand your concern. The reason for my visit today is not to list your home. I'd simply like the opportunity to help you sell it. All I want to do is come in, view the home, take a few measurements, no pressure, no pitch. What do you have to lose, right?
Right.
So again, you're not, and that's where you've got the buyer's agent hat on, that you're just helping to bring a buyer in, which they ultimately want,
Right.
right? So again, if they do say, no, you can't come in, I don't want to work with realtors, even on the buy side, it's not a time to debate that at the moment. What they say is just give them, what you'll do is come with your seller disclosure, your Maryland property disclosure statement. Some of them have them, some of them don't. Here, wish you the greatest success for your home. Here's my card. If there's anything you need, please don't hesitate to call. If you need a seller's disclosure, here's the seller's disclosure form. And again, the part of this says that, you know what, your goal's accomplished. You got a face-to-face with a FSBO, even if you didn't get through the front door, right? You've made that first step towards developing that relationship. Again, in some of these cases, the magic isn't going to happen on the first date, right?
Right.
It's going to take a couple dates.
Right.
So the next page is the calling. I don't recommend the calling, so I'm going to skip page 11. So page 12, so let's say you're able to get through the front door, right? So once inside the home, thanks for allowing me the opportunity to view your home. What I like to do is tour the home, take some notes and measurements of the rooms. It's been my experience that room measurements are very important to buyers. I use true place tours. My buyers actually expect to see measurements. It would be great as if we walk around, you pretend I'm a buyer and you point out what you feel the selling points are of your home. I'd appreciate if you could document the dimensions as I measure each room. Hand them the clipboard and the inventory sheet, and we'll give you those. As you tour the home, it's important to gauge the FSBO, right? As they get more comfortable sharing information with you, discussing room features. You should build rapport around non-threatening topics. We always talk about like Ford, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. And this is just rapport building. Again, you're not there to kind of slam them on what they're doing wrong with the home or whatnot, and pointing out all the things wrong with the house. It's just more kind of taking notes.
Okay.
Ask following questions as you tour the home. Are you originally from the area? Right. This talks about kind of rapport building. These just give you some quick those Ford things. Okay. So closing visit 1. So once you've toured the home, measure the rooms, offer your item of value by saying, have you prepared a seller's disclosure? Well, I'm not sure what you mean by that. It's basically a notice that discloses the current condition of your home. In Maryland, it's required for any home sale. If it's Montgomery County, you can also give them like the REA utility form. You can give them the whole REA packet too. Well, the condition of your home is fine. I'm sure it is. State law requires that you supply, or county law requires that you supply some of these things to the buyer. Really appreciate you allowing me the opportunity to view your home. I wish you great success with the sale. I'd like to touch base with you on a weekly basis so we can keep the information on your home up to date. Would that be okay? Right? So you're asking permission. Also, would you like me to make copies of the dimension sheets and of your seller disclosure? I could drop them back by tomorrow so you can hand them out to your potential buyers. Again, thanks for your time. If there's ever anything I can do for you or anyone you know, please don't hesitate to call. Right? So you basically left the appointment with, I've taken measurements, I've given you a disclosure. If you want me to, I can give you copies of all this stuff. Right? So you're not just like taking this information and like, hey, it's me versus you.
You're giving them
Yep.
something of value
Yep.
that they're going to need anyway.
And then at the end of the visit, you send them a thank you card. This is that page 14. That's that FSBO inventory sheet. So step 2. So step 2 is is visit number 2. So on your next
Lewis, you have a phone call on part 1.
scheduled follow-up day, which is usually a week later, go back and hand deliver part 1 of the FSBO guide, 100 ways to sell your home fast.
Is that something you have, or we have access
Yeah,
to?
Here's a copy of it right here. I'm gonna send these to you after the class.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So this is 100 ways to sell your home fast.
And let me just rewind for a second.
Yeah.
You talked about some of the forms that we use, the REA packet, and what else?
So the Maryland Property Disclosure Disclaimer Statement, the REA, if it's in Montgomery County, the REA.
The utility sheet.
Yep.
Maybe if it's the new fire, what they're supposed to have. For
The smoke detectors.
Smoke
Yeah.
detectors.
You have a smoke detector pamphlet. That's a good one. And if it's like older than 78, then lead.
Okay, thank you.
So this is that 100 ways to sell your home fast and for more money. This just basically walks through repairs, cleaning, neutralizing, kind of staging and condition issues. So you're just giving them kind of, but in a sense, you're also saying, these are all the things I do for my client. These are all the things I'm thinking about for my client. So you're giving away information. What we usually find is that there's a gap between information and implementation, right? Anyone can look information up. It's actually implementing it, and that's our job, is to implement. But we also have the education and information. We've got the whole package, the information plus implementation. So again, what you're doing is giving them information and kind of helping them so that they can sell their house. So dialogue 2, you're bringing that 100 ways to sell their home fast. Hi, I just happen to be in the neighborhood and thought I'd drop this off. I definitely think I can help you in the sale of your home. How did it go this week? Are there any changes with information you provided me? Is there anything I can help you with? Right? So you're just showing up, delivering this package, or potentially delivering the the dimensions as well, and just seeing how are things going. How did it go this week? Right? If the FSBO's not home, put the follow-up material in an envelope and place it at the front door. and then afterwards call the FSBO to verify that they received the information using the visit dialogue number 2. So basically, if they're not home, you stop by the house, drop off the packet. If they're not home, then you call them that evening and just have this conversation with them. See how things are going.
Right.
Follow-up step number 3 is your next visit, which is a week later. And now you're going to come with the FSBO, the money guide. And this one, basically,
Can I ask you, this is more of a technical question,
Uh-huh.
a little off topic, but if they want to show their house, they don't have a lockbox, so they're going to always be there to show the home?
typically they're going to have to be there to show the home. They can maybe put a combo lockbox on, but
Some of them do.
yeah. And it depends. Some estates have tried, some estates try doing, like the 2 FSBOs I had in Olney Mill were both estate properties.
Okay.
So I don't believe they put lock boxes on, but they were both vacant.
Oh, okay.
So
Just
that,
curious.
yeah. So this
Thank
is, yep. This is the basically the money. This talks about qualifications. What are points? Interest rates. It just kind of gives a little bit about title insurance. Some things to consider for a smooth closing, right? Water and sewer, homeowners association fees, condo fees, taxes, rents. This is basically a net sheet, a seller's net sheet to give them, so they can calculate their proceeds. So, again, that's visit number 3. If they're there, you have dialogue number 3 with them. How's it going? Any changes? Anything I can help you with? Don't hesitate to call. Here's the package, right? If they're not home, you leave it, you make the phone call. It's pretty simple. But it's just consistent, right? It's some consistency here. Now, you basically hopefully had 3 face-to-faces with them, but at least you've had 1 face-to-face and 2 phone conversations.
If you can get a hold of them.
If you can get a hold of them, yeah. But you've at least left something that, they've gotten something from you. Yep. Step number 4, that's going to be visit number 4. So step number 4 we look at is kind of the critical last face-to-face effort that you're going to do. So step number 4 is you visit them, and you're bringing the third and final handout, which is the checklists. So this is your basically like a contract to closing checklist.
Are you sending us all of
Yep.
those?
Uh-huh. So why would you send someone why would you give someone a contract to close checklist?
It's
'Cause
value.
It has value.
Well, okay. Besides the value, I mean, technically, why would I send one of my sellers a contract to close checklist? What moment would I send it to them? Usually, once we get a contract, right? So it's a little bit of a presumptive close. That look, I've been talking to you for 4 weeks now. Like, here's a contract to close checklist because you should have a contract by now.
Right.
You don't have a contract right now? Ooh, okay. My bad, because everything I sell sells in 30 days or less. So something's wrong here. You're not, without saying that, you're bringing the impression by giving them, and ideally, you'll see in this, the key to visit 4 is this little line that you're hoping to kind of dangle out there. It's, hi, since you're probably getting closer to selling your home, I thought this would be of value to you. This is our seller contract to close checklist. How did it go this week? Any changes? Anything I should be aware of? So since you're getting closer to selling your home, this is kind of designed to solicit their frustrated response, right? Like, shit, we're not any closer to selling this home as we were when I first started talking to you. So what you're trying to do is get them to kind of take that first step almost back through the threshold, back towards you.
Thinking, hey, I might need help.
Right,
To
exactly.
the point of thinking,
Let's see here.
I thought it was going to be so easy.
Right. So what we'll do is we'll get into, so if that doesn't work, and that's ideally, Again, visit 4. This is where this is your last face-to-face drop off of packets happens. Steps 5 and beyond are going to be phone call follow-ups. So that's why, again, this is kind of a critical moment where you do as best you can. This is where you do want to have a conversation with them. So after this visit, again, send note card. The last is step 5, and these are where we begin weekly phone calls, where you're just calling them to see how things are going, any changes, anything you can help with. If they're still around in the 8th week, a relationship has been formed, and the FSBO is self-discovered that you're different, right? You're following up. You've got a system in place. So page 19, closing FSBO to a listing conversation. Always be on the lookout for closing signs, right? So again, going back to visit number 4, after using the phrase, since you're getting closer, don't be surprised if FSBO starts asking you some questions, right? So why didn't you think, why hasn't our house sold? And these are questions that are related around pricing and exposure. Should we drop the price? This is a pricing conversation. What should we do? Sometimes they'll ask, what are we doing something wrong? Why aren't we getting looks? Why aren't we getting contracts? How's the market? So these are frustrations. These are things that they are looking for information. And really, if you hear any of these 4 types of questions, what you're really hearing is, close me please, right? Come list my house. Because they're missing critical steps in really what the value of a realtor is. And now they're starting to see that there is a little bit of a value gap here. So when you sense their questions are out of frustration, say, it sounds to me like it's time for us to get together to discuss exactly what you need in the sale of your home and see if we can create a win-win working relationship. Wouldn't you agree? If they don't agree, if you can get what you need in the sale of your home by forming a working relationship with me, why wouldn't you consider it? If at the end of our conversation you feel like you're going to lose by partnering with me, simply say, not at this time. Worst case scenario is you'll be more informed about the options you have for selling your house. Besides, you should never say no until you know what you're saying no to. There may be opportunities available that you never knew existed. I mean, really, what do you have to lose, right? It's kind of I like in this momentum, we use that phrase a lot. What do you have to lose? Because a lot of times people do say no to things. They just, it's like you go to a store and it's like, hey, can I help you? And it's like, nope, I know, when if a good salesperson knows how to ask better questions. So a lot of times it's just giving them they have nothing to lose in this. They might get more informed. And at the end of the day, they don't have to say yes to it if it's not, doesn't make sense for them. So one of the other things is, so why would, seller might ask, so why are you doing all these things? What's in it for you? And this is the value for value dialogue. I do it because I look for win-win relationships. If I give you things of value to help you sell your home, that's definitely a win for you. Well, if you happen to run across someone who wants to sell their home and doesn't want to go FSBO, you may think of me, and that's definitely a win for me. So that's where you start planting the seeds of the referral, if need be. Page 21, these are your FSBO note cards. So this gives you the wording you can use for your FSBO note cards after each visit. Page 23. And these are when you get into advanced dialogues. On page 23, these are accountability related questions, exposure related questions, pricing related questions, and opportunity related questions. And the way we work the momentum program is, the best thing to do is use the standard dialogues initially until you start getting more comfortable. And then you can add in these advanced dialogues, because some of these may cut a little deep and you're not ready for kind of the answers until you've kind of gone through some of these a little bit. Sometimes once again you gain the confidence of the FSBO, you may want to be more effective on the initial visit. You may ask the following questions. These are designed to not only reveal FSBO weakness, but also imply your value as a listing agent, right? Because sometimes what you're doing is you're asking them questions that, you're almost asking them like, you dumbass, you don't know the answer to this? You should know the answer to this, but you're not saying it that way. But it's like, how long has your home been for sale? Have you received any offers? How many times has the home been shown? What's the feedback you're getting? Well, we're not getting any feedback. I should be getting feedback. Is that what you're saying? Right? So that's what you're trying to do, is in the seller's mind is create some doubt. We always talk about like a knowledge gap. Because people always think, well, this is what happens. Signs go up, buyers come in, buyers write contracts, home sells, sign goes down. That's what they see sometimes. They don't understand that there's a buyers come in, buyers go out, buyers come in, buyers go out. And there's sometimes critical things that we as agents, you call that buyer's agent, have a conversation with them. Well, they thought that the transportation was too far. It was going to be too far to their job. Well, actually, a lot of my clients are using the ICC. Oh, really? Where's the ICC? It's just down that way. There's things that with follow-up, you can actually do a lot of great things, but they're missing that whole key link. They don't know that that's an important component.
So, can I ask you another
No?
question? So, when you do, let's just say you have a buyer and they're going in, do you discuss with the seller and your buyer wants to buy it, before you go in there, do you go in there with a form signed that they'll pay you a certain commission?
Absolutely. Yep. So, and actually, let me see here.
Oh, we're
Yep.
coming up on it, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So a lot of that is like if there's a fee, we've got dialogues in here for the real estate fee, and basically how do you? Because what happens a lot of times is, agents ask right off the bat, hey, if I bring you a buyer, will you compensate commission? Sometimes they say absolutely not, right? And that's okay, because you don't have a buyer yet, so there's nothing really to argue or debate. However, once you have a buyer, it's good to have that conversation again. Hey, look, I've got a buyer who's interested in your property. Can I show the house on Saturday at 3 o'clock? Well, we're not compensating with buyers. Thank you very much. We won't show the house. What do you mean? You're not going to really show my house? Yeah, I'm not going to show your house if you're not compensating. Well, we'll pay something like 2%.
Right.
Well,
That's what what do you do?
When I work with FSBOs, the minimum I do is 2.5%, or 3%, or 3.5%, whatever the number is. Because I have to work both sides of the transaction.
Right.
If that's agreeable to you, I'll see you at 2 o'clock on Saturday. Well, I need to talk to my brothers and sisters in the estate. Okay, great. And so when you have a buyer, you have a lot more power, because you've got a takeaway there. And you can play poker with them a lot better than if you don't have anything on the table. So a lot of times the commission conversation comes up, but it's not really debatable until there's something to debate. And if they're not willing to work with you and your buyer, then it's something that you either don't show the property or you work out with your buyer. And I had to do that in one case. That I had one where it was a property that had been in the estate, had sat vacant for 5 years. The seller was just ridiculous. Did not want to work with any real estate agents, but there's no way she would ever be able to sell this house without some help. My client needed help, so I wound up, she paid me exclusively to represent her. The seller wasn't going to pay anything, but she wanted it badly. I was listing her property. It was going to make sense for me. So it allows you to make those decisions. But I tried, and I just got shot down.
What about, recently did a transaction with one of these limited agents.
Mm-hmm.
They're useless.
What's that?
So they're limited, they call them limited something. Listen, all they do is put the property in the computer. They do nothing. So technically you're doing all the work. They don't pick up HOA docs, they don't do anything that the normal agent would be required to do and to have done. They did nothing.
Are they sub-agents or are they buyer's agents?
It said limited agreement agent or something like that. I did everything, Joe. It was terrible.
Well, they're either a buyer's agent or they're a seller sub-agent.
They were listing the property.
Oh, they were listing the property?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they didn't do any of the work. They didn't
Yep.
show up for settlement.
Yep.
They didn't do anything.
Right. Kind of like a Mr. Lister. Yep.
But none of the responsibilities even were in there. I mean, like getting the HOA docs, like getting the blah, blah, blah. I mean, they didn't do anything.
Well, it's one of those situations that...
I don't think I'll ever show another one.
Well, yeah.
How do you find out that they're a limited
They
agent?
normally list something like limited something,
And it's in the MRIS at the bottom?
and I didn't realize how limited they meant,
Yeah.
you know? Because I was doing everything on like both sides of the transaction, and it was ridiculous. Because I thought, how can you represent somebody when you're not doing anything? You're not even guiding them in the right direction.
Right. Well, it's almost like you're working on a FSBO, because it's really what they're saying is we're really just putting in an MLS for this client for a fee, and you're going to deal directly with the seller. We're not doing anything. So it's kind of like a for sale by owner, in a sense that but
They're hard.
yeah,
They're very hard to work.
yep.
In that case, I was like, thank God this is over. But
Yep. So in here you've got these, you got your scripts for working with the FSBO on the real estate fee. But again, the other thing is one of the things we talk about in our language is what a lot of times realtors ask is, are you willing to pay a realtor a commission? And that's not what you want to say. Are you willing to pay me a commission? Because you're different than any other realtor.
You're
out
making
there.
it personal.
Yeah, exactly. And you're the one who's actually doing the hard work. And that's where you want to just, and that's why in this, on page 25, it says me a commission. Not, and I always see realtors say, well, are you willing to pay a realtor commission or a real estate agent a
so
commission?
you yourself.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a small nuance to it. But it just, I think that's an important step. Going back, let's see here. And again, going back up, I really like, as you get better with these, page 23, these are really good probing questions to ask. When you're doing the walkthrough with the seller, especially of one that's been on the market for a little bit. Because what you're, again, I love creating some doubt. And I do this a lot with agents. Like, so sometimes I'll go to brokers opens, and I'll just talk to agents about, similar kind of questions, just to create some doubt. So if you don't know the answers to these questions, you should. And the fact that you don't even know to ask these questions, there may be bigger issues out there that you haven't even thought of. And that's what happens with a lot of FSBOs. Like, so I never even thought that it would be important to understand that have any similar homes sold while yours has been on the market. I have no clue. But that's important to know.
Yeah, that is important to know.
You know? So how do I find that information out? Right? And
Just
is there a,
search comps.
well, how do I do that? Well, as a FSBO, right?
Oh, it's a FSBO.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So what you're doing is you're just creating this bigger doubt that, like, I'm missing a whole part of the marketplace. I'm missing a lot of information maybe that I should have. So how are you marketing the home? What's the response been? Have realtors shown the home? If so, what's been their feedback? Right? So how'd you arrive at your list price? Did you consider the pricing benchmarks and trends that exist in the area? What does that mean? Are you aware of what sold and expired in the last year in this area? Well, I looked at the solds. What are why expireds? Are you aware of the supply and demand in the neighborhood, specifically the months of inventory? Did you consider the consequences of pricing high before you chose your list price? And what did you think? Did you think this kind of information would be of value? So a lot of times what happens is a lot of sellers, they just go on Zillow. They look at what the automated pricing models say when it comes to pricing.
Or they have some god-awful price that's not even close.
Yeah, and sometimes they do. And so pricing, and I always say pricing's a tough one, right? Pricing, we struggle with it even with our best clients, right?
Yep.
Who we're in great relationship with. So the pricing one is one that, you've got to stay neutral on it. You just want to ask and be very curious, right? And start planting some seeds of doubt that maybe just relying on Zillow may not be the end all be all. But also these other accountability, exposure, and opportunity related questions also add, because we do more than just price properties, right? There's more to our job in helping sellers sell their homes than just having the right price on it. That's a major component of it, but it's also it's in the bigger picture. So What are you going to do after the home sells? Have you prepared a seller disclosure? And are you willing to pay me if I bring a buyer? So, use the closing directly after asking comprehensive questions. So, do you think this information would be of value and could help you in your attempts to sell the home yourself? When would be a good time to come out and share that information? Right. So these are just one of the closings for the listing. Page 26 is a tracking sheet, and that's it. So it's a pretty simple program. But a lot of it is once you understand the big picture and all the opportunities that are out there for sale by owner, I think it kind of opens up the opportunities. Let's see if I missed anything else. Any questions on that?
I don't think so.
Is it something you think you guys can do?
I could try. There's no sense in not trying. I mean, I need listings.
I didn't think about going into the for sale by owners to find the house that my one guy's looking for. And I guess I should do that.
Yeah, so and we always talk like so at the open house boot camp. So that's one of our big components of the open house boot camp is so whenever you meet a new client for the first time, or a new customer at an open house, right? It's like, so how are you going about searching for your next home? What process are you using? And it's like a lot of them are like, look, I got Redfin, I got Zillow, I got whatever app. I'm finding everything I need. Well, what I look at is when something's on MLS, it's almost too late in a low inventory market, right? So what I do for my buyers is I look on MLS, obviously, but I also go to Coming Soon. I go to New Home. I look for the new homes. I go back and look in the last 4 years for expired and withdrawn listings, and I also look at the FSBO inventory. So I look at different facets to find my buyers' properties. So when I pitch my buyers, my FSBO, kind of boot camp, I use that as I know how to work with FSBOs, and if there's a FSBO out there, I'm going to go find them. If there's a marketplace you want to be in, I'm going to go target that market, and I have to go after and find those listings. And how would you like to be the only buyer standing at the threshold of a house, right? Bidding on it, right? And that's the one beauty for your buyers that you can create in a FSBO situation, because a lot of times they don't have multiple offers coming in, right?
Right.
And your buyer might be, and especially if it's an off-market FSBO, you are the only one standing there. There's definitely some negatives to it. I mean, there's some crazy sellers out there. And to get someone to come off market and sell their home, sometimes their pricing expectations are unrealistic. Their condition expectations are unrealistic. However, for some of your buyers, some of the on-market stuff is completely crazy. It's going up every, the next comp's going to be 20,000 higher than
Right.
that. So sometimes it makes sense.
Well, you've given me something to think about in terms of finding a house for my buyer. I mean, my one clients, my in-laws, are having a hard time finding something in their price range and where they want in over 55 communities. So this would be a good opportunity to find some of the...
Oh, just ask me. I've been to all of them.
they're having a hard time finding something in either Anne Arundel, PG, or Howard, and they have very specific wants out of a place.
Cool.
2-bedroom with den, balcony, and so they've looked at like a bunch of places, and nothing's coming up within the neighborhoods that they want to be in.